It is 7 o'clock, so I will go ahead and call this special meeting of the Kaneland Board of Education to order. We would like to inform all board meeting attendees that this meeting is being live streamed and archived for access at any time by our community members on the internet within 24 to 48 hours of the meeting's conclusion. So will you rise with me and say the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I promise not to say this all the time, but for the last time for this board, a roll call, please.
Mrs. Witt.
Here.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
Mrs. Junk.
Here.
Dr. Lawler.
Here.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Here.
Mr. Carey and Mrs. Simmons are absent.
Okay, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members present, we do have a quorum. So I wanted to explain a little bit about what we're doing here tonight. You may have noticed that there are 3 agendas and 3 meetings. This first meeting is the final meeting of the currently seated board. And while there's a public comment section in each meeting. So the one in this meeting would be if you want to address the outgoing board members. That would be an appropriate place to do that. The second special meeting is the transition to the new board and the seating of the new board members. So if you want to, there's not a public comment in that one. Anything moving forward that a topic that you want the board to consider, you want to wait until the public comment in the third meeting, which is the regular meeting of the new board, once we're done. So this one is going to be pretty short and sweet. So I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mrs. Junk.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mrs. Witt.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. And come now to board and superintendent salutes, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Layden.
Thank you. Board Member Junk, would you please join me? That was begrudgingly, but thank you. On behalf of our Kaneland School District and the community, we'd like to say thank you for your years of service. 5 years on the board, dedication is awesome and appreciated. So thank you. I had the opportunity to get some feedback from some community members, some staff members, and a few of the colleagues that are current 3 board members, Teresa Witt and Ryan Carey and Meg Junk, who are leaving. So some of Meg's former colleagues have shared the following. Thank you always for being an advocate for our Kaneland students. Thank you for all that you've done to be transparent and open and honest in your discussion. Thank you for serving as a Kaneland board member. Your extraordinary dedication, governance, advocacy, and collaboration to building our education community are highly appreciated. Thank you for your dedication to serving the Kaneland community by serving on the Board of Education. Thank you. Our next board member, Ryan Carey, could not be with us. He has a event with his daughter who's at the high school, and because of the incidents from last Wednesday, wasn't able to attend tonight because the band concert got shifted to tonight. So he is with his family tonight, but please take a second to listen to some of the comments that some of his colleagues, some staff members, and former board members shared about Ryan Carey. I served with Ryan during the most of my time on the board. I found him to be highly focused, deeply committed, and good to the district. While our perspectives differed on a number of issues, we had an honest and authentic respect for one another. We listened closely to each other's perspectives. I believe that those discussions helped the board reach consensus and operate with focused transparency. Another comment, you're able to balance your views in listening to those that differ. I appreciate your perspectives and thank you for your years of service. Ryan was a purpose-driven board member, didn't waste time with aimless discussion. And again, these are what other people have shared, not me. So I'm just a messenger. In my time with Ryan, he came to meetings prepared and was always respectful, even though he was often a lone vote in favor or against an item that was up for a vote. He made his reasons clear, but did not take disagreements personally. In spite of those disagreements, he performed as a board team, and the board needed to speak when the board needed to speak with one voice. I felt Ryan genuinely concerned about student achievement and the relevance of budgeting to reach achievement goals. I do not recall Ryan making the mistake that many board members make, trying to micromanage administration. I believe that he worked to see the big picture, and when he did, he had a voice of opinion, and that contribution was very important. When he asked for clarification, it may not have been needed for him, but only for the others that clarification was needed. Sometimes maybe the community. I like to think that he kept public in public education, and he was certain to keep his eye on the bidding process for contracts which required it. Thank you to Ryan Carey for his years of service on the Kaneland board. And last, President Witt. A few thoughts that people have shared regarding President Witt, who served for 12 years. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Meg Junk served for 5 years, Ryan Carey for 8 years, and then Teresa Witt for 12 years, serving as a board president for a number of those years, and also on several committees. Thank you for your long-term dedication to Kaneland. You've been a beacon of support and advocacy for students. Thank you for serving as a Kaneland board member. Your extraordinary dedication, governance, advocacy, and collaboration to building our education community are highly appreciated. I so valued Teresa's depth of knowledge and commitment to the students of Kaneland School District. I learned a great deal from her about the role of functioning as a board member, and her strength of conviction was inspiring. Her unwavering efforts to promote inclusiveness and sense of belonging for all students, for advocacy and equity, and striving for excellence are hallmarks for her service as the board member. Her many years of service are to be honored, and I hope that the new board members can learn from her focus and understanding the complexities of the issues facing a school district. Kaneland is a better district because of her work. Wow, thank you for 12 years of service. I appreciate your lens and fairness and equity when you approach discussions and decisions. Thank you for your dedication. And last but not least, there's a comment here on the C's of board leadership that you shared and led with, which was clear. You were patient with collaboration with both myself and Dr. Fuchs as needed, intelligent communication, concern for the entire community, conscientious study, courage in the face of adversity at times, confidence of data-based policymaking, and then also care and concern for the entire district. Long after your own students have graduated, that is commitment to the fullest. So thank you, Teresa.
Wow, I just wanted to say that it has been an honor and a privilege to serve, and I believe that all of us who are outgoing board members feel that way. Particularly with this board. This board has been one of the highest functioning boards that I've served with, and it's not because we all think alike. I actually believe it's because we all think differently, but we've all been willing to listen to one another. So even in this, climate of partisanship and back and forth fighting, we were able to rise above it, and we did a lot of really good work. It's possible, and I encourage everyone to strive for that goal. And those who are maintaining on the board or staying on the board, I'm sure will do that. And I appreciate everyone's friendship and continued service. So thank you.
There were a few comments to the entirety of our three, Ryan, Meg, and Teresa, that were leaving. So I do want to share those also. I'm so thankful for the opportunities this Board of Education has provided me in my professional life, and I'm so proud of the district that has been shaped and supported by this board in my nearly 10 years in the district. While there have been some difficult times, you have each represented Kaneland with respect and have always done a great job of framing questions and discussions around what is best for our individual students. Two other comments, we're very appreciative for your service to the community. And then lastly, we're very appreciative to your guidance and leadership during COVID. So again, thank you for your years of service. That's it.
Is that the only salute?
That's the only salute tonight. Well, we have a couple coming up at 7:30, but.
So this is the opportunity in this meeting for public comment. We don't have anyone signed up, but is there anyone who would like to make a public comment? Yes. Okay, so I have to read my spiel. I get to read my spiel for the last time. I'll be really fast, I promise. The board values public input to inform our decision-making and to provide information and insight into what is happening throughout the district. Board meetings are held to conduct the business of the Board of Education and are required by law to take place in public. However, they are not public forums. We use the public comment section as an opportunity to listen to our stakeholders. For that reason, the board does not enter into a debate or respond to questions spontaneously or without proper investigation and deliberation. In most cases, concerns or questions regarding follow-up will be referred to the superintendent. If you choose to speak publicly, we ask that you go to the microphone, state your name and the village of residence or your association with us for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less so that all who wish to speak may have that opportunity. And while public education can be an emotional issue, and understandably so, the board strives to maintain a certain level of decorum at the meeting. Those who speak are expected to maintain a tone of courtesy and civility. And so the floor is yours now, if you could tell us.
Keep it under 3 minutes. I'll make packets.
Yes. If you want to hand them to the secretary, she can pass them on down.
That was your fastest one yet, Teresa.
Okay, I left out a couple.
My name is Andy Drendel. I'm speaking tonight as a lifelong Elbert resident, current taxpayer, educator, and the head boys track and field coach at Kaneland High School. I believe it was last summer's board meeting where the resurfacing of the track and runways was approved as a capital project with the intent of resurfacing and painting the surface in the summer of 2023. I met with Mr. Rollman and Mr. Payton 6 weeks ago on the details of the paint for the new track surface. I was very excited. It was brought to my attention by a community member on Friday that the district is now recommending that we postpone resurfacing the track and runways until 2028. In 1997, I was 11 years old and I got to see the track get resurfaced. 26 years later, it has not been resurfaced. I am now 36. The recommended life for a track surface is 8 to 10 years. You may squeeze 5 more years if there is low use and a high maintenance on it, pushing the track resurfacing back to 2028, which now puts the timeline at 31 years since it's last been done. I can no longer tell our students, student athletes, community members, parents, and alumni with a straight face that we are doing what's best for the safety of our kids. When you leave the room tonight and walk down the hallway to your car, that's the surface that we train on from January to March. From March to May, we may get outside as often as Illinois weather allows us and train on a 26-year-old track surface that is beyond repairable. There are 3 separate 10-foot long cracks that are a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch wide, a gap large enough for a runner's spike to get caught, potentially leading to a catastrophic injury. Our pole vault runway surface has not been done either, and it's down to the bare concrete. We have trained and run one of the top pole vault programs in Illinois since 1968. I've had to train athletes competing for state championships, we've had 4, with 15-foot poles and having to take off at full speed off of concrete that's caved in on both sides. Our long jump and triple jump runways are so deteriorated that when we put the takeoff boards in, there's a 2-inch gap between the runway and the board. Every meet, my assistant and I have to wedge pieces of scrap wood into the gap and pray that an athlete who's running full speed down the runway doesn't have his spikes catch that spot, again leading to a catastrophic injury. My years might be off by 1, but let me share with you a timeline. The track resurfacing was on the docket in 2012, then pushed back to 2016. It was pushed back again to 2019. In 2019, it was delayed to 2023. Tonight, you're being presented a plan to delay it until 2028. This plan now makes it 3 times as long as the recommended life expectancy of a resurfacing, and equivalent of a full track base replacement. The resurfacing of the track should have zero to do with any referendum vote or connection to that plan. This is long overdue, potentially being set back again another half a decade. Our boys track program puts out the best product no matter what conditions we have and what hand is dealt to us. The 9 state trophies, 21 sectional championships, 29 conference championships, 12 Division I athletes, and 24 current collegiate athletes are proof that we will continue to achieve what many others would consider unimaginable due to the circumstances of what has been a historically poor facility. I don't understand how there isn't a single facility in Illinois that has gone as long as Kaneland without, at minimum, resurfacing our facility. If this is the Knights' way of solving a problem of this magnitude, I'm really concerned for the future health of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there other public comments?
There's a side issue.
Oh, sure.
Hello. I'm Janine Mayer. I live in Elburn. We've lived out here about 35 years. My kids went to Kaneland High School about 20 years ago. And I just got my tax bill, $16,000. See that $10,000 is going toward Kaneland schools. And I haven't had my kids here in a while, but I started talking to neighbors and students here, and I'm finding out that my investment isn't too good here as far as what's been happening. I'm a financial advisor, a certified financial planner, and usually when I spend my money, I look and see, is it a good investment? Is it successful? What is the risk parameters? Well, I see you're spending $18,000 per student. Something I read online, it looked like you used to be in the top 20% in the state. And now I just looked at the latest numbers, and the statewide rank for percent of students who can read at grade level in Kaneland School District, 2019 was 38%. In 2021, 29%. In 2022, 29%. We are now not even in the top half. I'm trying to figure out what's happened and how our money isn't being spent well here, because this all is evidence that something terrible has happened since my kids used to be here. I heard they brought in something called standard-based grading. Why and how did this come in? And it doesn't seem like it's too successful from talking to parents. No parent or student that I've spoken to is in favor of this. It's very confusing. It seems unfair. It doesn't give, and I don't think any other districts in the area are doing this standard-based grading. So I'm really trying to get to the bottom of this. I'm very confused. I've heard there's fight clubs going on in high school here. I mean, that's really kind of a scary kind of thing too. But I do care about all of the kids, the future generation, the kids that are going to school here, that they should feel safe. And I've heard that there's been some things here where they have not felt they're in a safe environment. So I'm trying to get to the bottom of what's been happening since my kids were here. And I don't know who to talk to find this out. What has changed?
Okay, thank you for your comments. Are there other public comments? Yes.
My name's Martin Rudeman. I live in North Aurora. All of our children go to Kaneland schools, obviously. I just want to echo Coach Drendel's comments earlier. I want to see a little bit more respect for our student athletes, what they do here. They compete with 14 last week amongst other schools in this county, and they did very well considering how small of a school this is. So I understand money is tight all the time, but to keep putting this off over and over and over again, it's just not respectful for the children, for the kids. And just, I mean, when a middle school track is better than the high school track, I think there should be an explanation to why this keeps getting delayed and what's the justification for it. So I think we really need to invest in our student athletes, especially track and field athletes, keep considering what they've been doing for and representing their school. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there others?
Jen Farmer, Sugar Grove. Along with what they just said, I have a senior who has been on the cross country and then track team for the last 4 years. And he is one of the pole vaulters at Kaneland, and he is on track to make state, fingers crossed. But the facilities that he has had to work with the last 4 years makes me as a parent nervous every time he's out at practice. Whether they're running in the hallways, you know, trying to find space, going outside, it's a safety concern. And as a parent, I hear a lot about safety in schools, safety in schools, safety in schools, but then we put our kids out on tracks that are not safe. So I feel like we're kind of contradicting ourselves by we want to have safe facilities, safe places for our students, but then we're lacking in giving them those space to train properly and without causing them injury. And it's just, as a parent, I just get nervous every day. Am I going to get a phone call saying that he's hurt because he stepped on something and rolled an ankle? So I think it's really important to kind of look at what Coach Drendel is proposing. We have a paving facility a track paving facility in Elburn, a local community run place. Like, we can look for our resources and reach out to the community. And I think we need to do that for our students.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Don't get to vote on any of this. Are there any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, we will move forward, and the new board members are in attendance at this first special meeting, so the comments that are for moving forward, they've heard them, and that will be taken up by the new board. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the April 24th, 2023 regular meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. And a roll call, please.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Mrs. Witt.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mrs. Jones.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. And we move on now to item I, which is the announcement of the results of the April 4th, 2023 election for the Board of Education.
Thank you, President Witt. Annually, after the election that took place on April 4th, they have what's called the canvassing of election time. So that's a set period of days between the election and the final results and count. And then after that canvassing period is concluded, we receive the abstract of votes from John Cunningham, the Kane County Clerk. And just wanted to verify with our community and our board that we have received those. And as a result of the canvassing, based on the election, based on the candidacy, which is letter I in the board packet, the top vote getters for our next serve as our next Board of Education members are Bob Mankowski, Aaron McCauley, Ryan Kleisner, and Edmund Cook. Would you four please join me up here for the oath of office? For the oath of office, what I will do is, I'm just going to go ahead and we'll get started. You insert your name on the area that's underlined. And then from there, we'll just read it. I'm not going to do a line at a time, and then you read it back to me. We'll just read it all together as a group. Okay? So I do solemnly swear, and we'll keep on going, that I affirm to faithfully discharge the duties of the office.
In accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois, to the best of my ability. I further swear that I shall respect taxpayer interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets. I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board, while respecting the privacy of students and employees. I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual, and that decisions can be made only by majority vote at a public board meeting. I shall abide by majority decisions of the board, while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels. As part of the Board of Education, I shall accept the responsibility for my role in the equitable and quality education of every student in the school district. I shall foster with the board extensive participation in the community, formulate goals, define outcomes, set a course to gain the district. I shall assist in establishing structure and an environment designed to ensure all students have the opportunity to retain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework. I shall strive to ensure continuous assessment of student achievement on all conditions affecting the education of our children in compliance with state law. I shall serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students and our community schools to advance the vision for Kaneland. And I shall strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the school district toward fulfilling the vision the board has created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and personal development.
Thank you and congratulations. I know some of you have families, so if you want to stay right here for a second, if your families want to grab a picture, they can get a picture before we leave. Because after the picture, we will get started with the second board meeting that you guys are now official board members. Come over, just slide this. The light in the way? Yeah.
All right. So when a board is completely done with their work, the board adjourns under the Latin term sine die, or if you're for the English pronunciation, it's sine die. It means without a day, and it means without a day to reconvene. So, for the very last time at 7:28, I move that the Kaneland Board of Education, this particular board, adjourns sine die.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Move out the chairs.
No. Have a good night. Good night, Scott. As we convene our next, our second of our third board meeting, would our three new board members please come up and have a seat at one of the vacant spots, please? right, I'm going to serve to start the second board meeting off for just a couple minutes till we have the election of President Pro Tem. This second meeting is to select election of officers, meeting dates for the school year, and then also board meeting committee positions. So with that, I would like to call the 7:20 special board meeting to order at 7:31. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons is absent.
Thank you. With 6 board members, we do have a quorum. And just as a reminder, as you just saw President Witt lead the previous meeting and other board meetings, this position here is for our board president. So in a minute, once we go through, well, you don't have to be the board president, but once we go through the process of getting a new board president, if it's, that person would then come and take this seat, and then that person would run the meeting from this office or this position with the gavel to run the meeting. So with that, first thing we need to do is elect a president pro tem. And as Kaneland School District, when we have had a meeting in which we are electing new officials, new board positions, we have had our superintendent serve as the president pro tem. So with that, could somebody please make the motion to approve Dr. Layden as president pro tem?
So moved.
Move. Then a second? Second for Bob. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Thank you. And now the process will be to open up the table for nominations for the office of president. So with that, I would open that up and see if there is a nomination for the office of board president.
I would like to nominate Mr. Gonzalez for board president.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we've got one nomination on the table with a second. Are there any others? Hearing none, can I get a roll call for the office of president, please?
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
With 6 votes, we do have a majority, so congratulations, Mr. Gonzalez. If you would please.
Shortest term ever.
Sorry. And while our new board president moves over to this position, Mr. Gonzalez will now take over as our board president, and we'll work through the next 3 offices of the office of the vice president, the office of the treasurer, and the office of the secretary.
Sorry, guys, give me a second.
You'll take nominations for the office of vice president.
Okay, so at this point, I'd like to entertain any nominations for the office of vice president.
I'll nominate Mr. Mankowski.
I'll second that. Oh, no, I can't second.
No, no,
Uh,
no, ask if there's a second.
Is there a second? Oh,
Second.
excuse me, is there a second nomination for the role of vice president? Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Okay, let's see. You guys are gonna have to forgive me. I'm new to this. It's gonna take me a few minutes to get in this role. So, I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Layden now for, the office of the board secretary.
Yes, thank you, President Gonzalez. About 3 years ago, we transitioned from one of our board members being the board secretary as a result of conversation as a result of trying to take minutes and voting and notes during the meeting. We had our previous administrative assistant, Beth Sturkle, take over the role of board secretary, and we've continued that, at least our board has continued that practice. So it'd be my recommendation to this board to continue that practice. Julie Orfel is in the office. She's working regularly, works all summer long, and helps put all the agendas and packets together. So it's my recommendation to move forward, keeping Julie Orfel as our board secretary. But we still will need a motion and a second for that.
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried. Next, we'll move on to the election of treasurer, and I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Layden as well.
Thank you. Across the state of Illinois, the vast majority of large districts, again, for the same reasons that most of our board members don't have time to run the books and the budget and the entire finances of a district, most districts have their certified school business official take that task on. So again, I would like to continue that for transitional purposes and just for the success moving forward. So if somebody would entertain the motion of Dr. Fuchs remaining for the next 2-year period as the board treasurer, and then if we could get a second on that, then we will continue with that practice across our district.
I would move. So moved.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. McCauley.
Here. Present.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
All right, and that passes. So the next item is the approval of the regular board meeting dates for 2023 and 2024. Dr. Layden, would you please provide more information?
Yes, in the board packet under letter F, we have the recommendation of the approval of the board meeting dates for 22-23. As you can see in those dates, for those of you that are new, we still, the recommendation is to continue to meet on Mondays. Mondays are when we have met across this district for a number of years, and the meeting times have been at 7 o'clock and here. They used to be hosted at the district office, but that's more on the northern end. Harder and Sugar Grove is more centrally located. So it's our recommendation that we keep Monday nights other than the 3 Wednesdays. You'll see 3 Wednesdays, one in October, one in January, and then one in May. Those are all due to holidays on Monday: Columbus Day, Martin Luther King Jr., and Memorial Day. So that would keep our meeting dates consistent with what we've had this year, our meeting time consistent, and location consistent.
So can I ask, does
Yes.
anyone want to have a discussion or any input on the schedule? Is there anything that you'd like to see different?
Yeah, I'd like to have a little discussion about that, to see if maybe there's a little bit more convenient time or day, especially to get more of the public involved. Maybe we can get some more, parents and people out here, to be supportive and have a voice, with the admin and with the board themselves. So I think it warrants more discussion.
Okay. Is this a thumbs up type thing where we need to discuss it and move on, or?
Well, I think what I would ask Ryan, is there a date or a time? Is there something you had in mind as a recommendation?
My thoughts were is that Monday's just a tough day in general, for most people, and just having the public out here and having more of the community, I think, being a part of these meetings. I think it's really difficult to have a long, weekend and then go to work all day Monday and then want to come back out, to come to the school board meeting. So it was just something I was thinking about and wanted to kind of bring it up for discussion. Maybe if we had it on a Tuesday or Thursday, or maybe there'd be a little bit more bigger turnout. Maybe we'd have a little bit more FaceTime with the community. It was just kind of the thought I was having, and I wasn't sure if anybody else was thinking this way or, wanted to discuss it.
I have a question. If we moved it beyond Monday, with the timeline of, we received the packet on Thursday, we have the weekend, we have Friday, and then the weekend to review it. Monday, we're discussing it. Would we be able to be consistent with getting the packet on Thursday then affect essentially having an additional day to review the material.
So you're saying if it was moved to like a Tuesday?
Yeah, let's say we move it to Tuesday, for example, would that give us that additional day, or are there
Yeah.
requirements that require us to only have it a certain number of days so we get it on Friday?
The requirements are a minimum of 48 hours in advance. So technically, if we got them out Friday by 3 o'clock, that would also be acceptable for a Monday because there's the 48 hours between Friday and Monday. So if there's a different day of the week on a Tuesday or Thursday, then you would likely see the board shift or the board packet shift and come out possibly on a different day of the week. So if it's on a Thursday, you'd probably see the board packet come out on a Monday or a Tuesday.
I guess I should ask really quick, was there a reason that it was moved to Mondays? A specific reason? Or has it always been Monday or?
Yeah, it's prior to my time, so I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know what that historical piece is.
Got it.
And then the board packet usually it goes out Thursdays at 3 o'clock. Therefore, everybody has the weekend to review it and then Monday to review it. So Monday's been that time
Got it.
to take into consideration the weekend time.
Because it gives you time, as you'll start to see, like the packets are huge, and it gives you time to read through. Yeah, a lot of homework.
And we have not, from community members that have come either for public comment or have shared information, as they have shared, they have not stated, to my recollection in my 8 years here, that a different night of the week would be, would bring more people out. And maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't, but I've never received any feedback in public comment sharing. If there were Wednesdays, we'd have more people. If there were Thursdays, there'd be more people. So I don't know if a day of the week would do that or not, but it has not been indicated to us.
And we do this annually, right? So theoretically, if we thought maybe we wanted to move the day, maybe we could get some public feedback and maybe poll them or something and then find out if there's a better day. So maybe, in the process of this year, kind of working through what I think is going to work, and then future, we could say, well, maybe Wednesday does work better. Maybe people are more, it might be better to do something like that. Just a suggestion.
And you'll also see in the next board packet, for the 7:30 meeting, which is going to be starting later, there is a topic to talk about, the board retreat that we're going to have into June or July. And many times that retreat, this is one of the topics that does come up on that for consideration for the following year as board members are seated and have been through a number of board meetings to kind of experience what it's like.
Other discussion? So at this point, it sounds like we've agreed to maintain the current calendar under the assumption that we're going to discuss for next year, given public feedback as well as further input, through discussion. All right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation that the Board of Education approve the 2023-2024 meeting schedule as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski,
Aye.
Dr. Lawler,
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner,
Aye.
Mr. Cook,
Aye.
Mr. McCullough.
All right, and the motion carries. Next item is approval of the board member committee positions. Dr. Layden, please.
Yes, thank you. You should have in your packet the 2023-2024 Kaneland School Board Liaison assignments. So our board has practiced in my 8 years and even longer, a couple different iterations of what committee work looks like. Our current practice is to have on the front page, the very last topic, the insurance committee. Our current practice is to have one dedicated person, board member, attend those meetings. And the reason there is some of those meetings they build in nature. You need some of the information from the September meeting that goes into October, and then the decisions as they go all the way through May 9th, the work that is important, that it's consistent with a single person. For the insurance committee, then on the back page, the last one, the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame also does the same thing. We meet fewer times, and that has been board member Mankowski for the Hall of Fame, and the insurance committee has been board member Gonzalez the last 2 years. The Hall of Fame also does the same thing. There's a series of meetings that take place between September and June, and that information builds on each subsequent meeting as we review candidates, as we review information. To have different people attend would make that slightly problematic. So I would recommend that as part of tonight's conversation, at a minimum, we get a volunteer for the insurance committee and the Hall of Fame committees. And then the other committees, CAC, facility planning, the IASB delegate, the Kishwaukee divisional meetings, and the FAC. This Board of Education 2 years ago made a decision to not have dedicated board members for these committees because it came right after an election, came right after a board election, and the idea was to allow all new board members to attend as they could, attend as they were available. That way they could not be tied into just one committee, but they could attend 2 or 3 different committees to get a kind of the lay of the land across the district. And the thing with that would just be, it's not assigned, but the thing with that piece would then be just knowing who's going to be attending. And as you know, 3 board members together having a conversation could be a violation of the Open Meetings Act. So if 3 board members do choose to attend any of these, we just want to make sure that the board members aren't talking or conducting board business when they're at one of those meetings. And then that's the current practice. The previous practice was we had a board member who appreciated and enjoyed signing up the rest of the board members for the committees. So as you see well, and themselves too, wasn't just everybody else do the committees. There was board 1 and board number 2, as you see under CAC. There would be a primary board member that would attend. That way we would ensure there's at least a board member there. Then there was a secondary board member that would attend for each of the meetings. That's why there's the 2 columns, board 1 and board 2. And then the same for the FAC. So we could also do that. That way each of the board members has the opportunity to rotate through committees as assigned, or again, continue the current practice of leaving them open other than the insurance committee and the Hall of Fame committee. So I'll see if you have questions or thoughts on that.
So I'd just like to share, being that that a few of you are new, I spent the last 2 years on the Health Insurance Committee. The obligation was about an hour and a half, once a month, not every month. But I think it's an important role. As you may or may not know, we have a self-funded insurance plan. So the employees of the district have an active voice and actively participate in this plan. I think it's important. It's an important role. That board member's role is important because as a district, we pay for a good portion of these benefits. And so being there, I think it's a value-added position. That being said, there is a little bit of commitment, but it was well worth it for me. I learned a lot, and I felt like I was able to bring information back to the board as it became available.
And as noted in the meeting obligation column, those meetings start at 4 o'clock, and those meetings are generally conducted at the district office. And like Board President Gonzalez said, they're from like 4 to 5:30, 4 to 5 o'clock.
I could talk a little bit about some of the history too. I mean, so maybe one of the reasons we went from going to all of the committees to just a handful of them was, and I think this is when it really started, was when we started having the negotiations start happening, right? So negotiations becomes incredibly time consuming to be part of the role, and going to negotiations and then also going to the regular scheduled meeting and then also going to a CAC meeting or an FAC meeting. It does become like almost once every day, like right? So we started rotating those off and allowing people to go to those other meetings then when they had the convenient time up to do it on their own. And I think we balanced that pretty well. During COVID, we had a lot of those as Zoom, so I think it was a little easier to chime in on those, right? But as you go on board to face-to-face, I think Teresa made a comment last meeting that we've kind of phased off a little bit, so it might be good to rethink about maybe going back to some of those again. But I think that was the big initiative there, was to kind of phase out those really kind of rigorous scheduled ones and just go when it's a little bit more convenient for us. But that's just the history. And like I said, negotiations is a beast. So.
So I would volunteer to do Hall of Fame to continue on. Continuity there. Because a lot of the names get held and then pending more So it's one of those things where continuity might be important. Not that,
No, that is true. That is helpful if you're volunteering, Mr. Mankivsky, if you're volunteering that, and if the rest of the board is amenable to that, we're gonna continue on the Hall of Fame committee. Okay. Then I guess the other one would be the insurance committee, which is again, 7 of the 9 months or so, and it's 4 o'clock after school. If there's anybody who has an interest in that.
Conflict with work hours, so
Yeah,
yeah,
that is a challenging one.
I'll do the FPC.
Okay.
So I think that having the assigned attendance to the FAC, CAC, FPC, you know, if we, and I've heard through individual conversations that one of our goals is connecting more with the community. I think that's a great opportunity to connect with the community, to be part of those discussions and hear what's going on a more personal level. So, you know, I think assigned attendance would be nice, but I don't have your guys' schedule, and I know doing this already is a huge commitment in general. So I'd hate to, you know.
I mean, I agree with you. I think it's a valuable experience to go to those. It can get, right, it can get kind of prohibitive, especially at certain times, not always, but certain times.
Well, and Dr. Love makes a good point. When you get into collective bargaining, it is a huge time commitment.
And that will be next year.
Yeah, and that's coming up
We'll
next
be
year.
Sorry, I
starting
didn't
next
share
year.
that part, yeah, so. We have 2 collective bargaining groups, right, so those contracts do this. Get done with one and then start the next one. Cycle, off cycle, yeah.
So is there, I'm happy, if the board wants to try to do that, to go back to buying assigned, I can fill those in, I can rotate names through, and I can send that to all the board members. You can take a look to see what you can make, what you can't make. 'Cause that's typically like why we have a board 1 and a board 2. So if, as an example, 824, board member Lawler is the first one, board member McCauley is the second one, Aaron would be the one that's expected to go, and then if he can't go, yeah, Aaron Lawler, then Aaron McCauley would be the second one. And the other thing that we do is at our board meetings, when we provide an update under the superintendent report, we provide updates on these topics. And then we also say when the next meeting would be, then we would just send a reminder, or I would just share the reminder that Aaron, you're scheduled for the 8/24 meeting. Can you make it? And then if not, then we just ask, you know, Aaron McCauley, if you could make it. Then if not, then we would just get another board member. So if you want us to assign those, I can do that first draft, or if one of you would like to, like I said before, one of our board members kind of liked doing that for the colleagues. If one of you would like to fill that in, that's great. If you want me to, I'm happy to do so.
Could we do things like the doodle polls or whatever? Do that too, right?
I could send that in a shareable doc. So I will do that with a shareable doc. Still have yet to resolve insurance committee, if there's anybody.
and Dr. Layden.
Yes.
Can we open it up to the board to get back to you sometime in the next 2 weeks
Yes,
about what, would that be okay? And
yes.
where their interests lie.
Yeah.
It,
I will send that out this Friday.
let us get back to you.
So then at that point, we can table it.
But the insurance, we can bring back the insurance committee because the next meeting's not until, because you would continue through the rest of this year. Then the next one's not till September. So we could table that one, but that is one where we would want one dedicated person on that committee.
So I've had the discussion with my wife, taking on this new role. It's something that was a concession. For the sake of the board and the district, I will do it if I have to. But if anyone is willing to come forward, it would be helpful. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that as the president, we have to be part of the negotiations team.
Yes.
So I will have that going on next year. That being said, I'm here, and, you know, there's not much I wouldn't do for the district, so if it needs to happen, I'm happy to. I just respectfully ask you guys consider it. And maybe, I don't know, it seems like it's pretty, in terms of the time, because I realize it's very difficult at 4 o'clock to get us to make it. I don't know if there's any, because a lot of it is the employees, right?
Yes.
And it's coordinating with a large group.
It's all staff other than the board member, and all the staff are done by 2:30 to 3:30, and then they come over for the district office at 4 o'clock. Otherwise, if we went with an evening or a later time, we wouldn't have the same, probably the same representation of our groups that serve on the committee.
And one more thing that I will say, I would say roughly off the top of my head, maybe 35 to 40% of the meetings were virtual. So, you know, some of them I was able to do through my laptop. Not as a result of COVID, but just because weather or, you know, for whatever convenience purposes.
I think I have what I need for this one, that you would serve if nobody else steps forward, but as we fill out the rest of the documentation and I get feedback when people are available, certain topics or certain nights of the week, we can populate that and I can bring that back for more discussion on May 31st.
Okay. So at this point, it would be tabled.
Yep, table. Yes, thank you.
So at this point, I'll entertain, does anyone have any other comments at this point? At this point, I'll entertain a motion to table the discussion until the next Board of Education meeting scheduled for May 31st, 2012.
So moved.
Second.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Bless you.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
So with 6 votes, the motion passes. Okay, well, at this point, I will make a motion to adjourn this special meeting at 7:56 p.m.
So moved.
Second, Aaron McCall.
Oh, can I get a roll call, please? Or, excuse me, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.
For our audience members, we'll have about a 2-minute transition till we start our 7:30 meeting. So if you are here for the next round of salutes, we'll be doing those salutes in just a few minutes. So thank you.
The real guy.
Okay, I made the notes in here. I made the bit, but I think
Thank you.
How long?
get it. Well, being self-employed has a little bit of, but you got a wife that kids, you know.
Was in delinquent.
Yeah, thank you.
Let him know.
To call the meeting to order. I said that out of order. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 8 o'clock. This is the regular meeting of the Kaneland Board of Education. I would like to inform all board all board meeting attendees that this meeting is being live streamed and archived for access at any time by our community members on the internet within 24 to 48 hours of the meeting's conclusion. Are we doing the pledge again?
Yes.
If you would please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Gonzalez,
Here.
Mr. Kleisner,
Here.
Mr. Cook,
Aye. Here.
Dr. Lawler.
Here.
Mr. Mankowski,
Here.
Mr. McCauley.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons is absent.
With 6 members here, we do have a quorum. So, at this point, is there anything that the board would like to move from the consent agenda to new business? No. Okay, we're gonna need to amend the agenda to pull H5, which is the approval of bid for maintenance vehicle. And we're gonna be putting it on the 31st, on the agenda for May 31st for further consideration. So, at this point, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as the consent, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Just the agenda.
Oh, excuse me.
Just the agenda.
I'll make a motion to, sorry, guys. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kleisner,
Aye.
Mr. Cook,
Aye.
Mr. McCauley,
Aye.
Dr. Lawler,
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
All right, with 5 votes, the motion carries. It is now time for the board and superintendent salutes, so I will turn it over to Dr. Layden.
Thank you. We're going to take a couple minutes to recognize some of our staff members. If you remember, leading up to Friday night, we had our annual Kane County Educator of the Year event on Friday. And we were very proud to have recognized 5 of our staff members at that event as nominees. We had Cynthia Babbage from Kaneland Blackberry Creek Elementary School, Mike Lavorsi from here at Harder Middle School, Daniel Ponzak from Kaneland High School, Gina Mitchell from Harder Middle School, and Faye Licari from, says Kaneland High School, but she's works across the district and works at all the buildings. And of those nominees, Faye Licari was the winner for the student support personnel for all of King County, which was really neat because we typically have 1 or 2 of our staff members that win, and it's just a nice event. And even not winning is not the most important thing, just the fact that we're able to celebrate education across King County. There are about 650 total people that attend the event with the 9 districts across King County. So it's just really nice to see our staff there, see them be recognized, and the support that we have for each other. One of the smaller districts in Kane County, we tend to have the best attendance at that event because of our support for each other that our staff members do have. Which leads me into the second part of our recognition for tonight. This week kicks off Teacher Appreciation Week. As you saw out in the hallway, the red carpet out there, that was nice. I was going to try to say that I did it for you guys coming tonight, but those of you that know that it's Teacher Appreciation, it is across our district, and it is great to see a number of our staff members being recognized, our PTOs, PTNs, recognizing the hard work that their teachers do. So with that, I would like to take a second to recognize our teachers, in addition to those that will be recognized for their years of service and retirement potentially. So if there are any teachers here, would you please stand? Yeah, you need to stand. All the teachers, please stand. And now comes the one of the potentially stressful part for some of our recipients. As staff members and teachers, we do a great job leading classrooms, leading discussions and talking, but then there's certain times when the microphone is on and they know maybe the community is watching where they'll say no, thank you. So what we'll do is, first we're gonna recognize our staff members that have been here for 25 years. And so when I call you up in a second, I'll hand the apple that you received to Board Member Gonzalez. He will give that to you, and if you would like, you can take the mic and you can share a note of appreciation of your 25 years, a highlight, something you'd like to share. If not, that's fine also. So we will start with, first for 25 years of service, Mrs. Barb Bradford. Sorry, that was
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Barb. I think the look I gave Barbie, she came up with a little peer pressure. So I won't make eye contact with the next people. If you want to, that's fine. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Our second recipient is Dr. Julianne Fuchs. Unfortunately, she's typically right there and would come up, but she is sick tonight and couldn't make it. But I would like to recognize and thank Dr. Fuchs for her 25 years of service. Actually, this one we omitted last year, so it's kind of a strange twist, but it's a 26-year recognition for Mr. Tim Wolf.
Actually, a couple of real quick things. I'll make quick. I just want to acknowledge Joe Wolf was on the school board, my dad's brother, through the 80s. He was school board president. He passed away last week. Was very dedicated to Kaneland all the way through to the end. Lived in Sugar Grove. So if you know the Wolf family, pay your respects. Also, just a funny quick story. When I took this position 26 years ago, I went through an interview that went on and on. They had the entire school board, all the administrators. There was 3 positions open, and of course I wanted the top one. So went through the entire interview, got home, get a phone call, and they're like, yeah, we'd like to hire you. I go, which position? And they said, you know what, we think you can do all 3. So, so yeah, so I was hired for all 3.
Thank you. Thanks for doing all of them. Pamela McGrew. Thank you for your 25 years of dedicated service.
Thank you. I just want to say I've been a
You talk
parapro
for the mic.
in Kaneland for 25
Yeah,
years.
just thank you.
Actually, I'm loud enough. I don't need the mic. You can ask the children. I've been a parapro here at Harder for 25 years, and I love my job, and that's why I'm here so long. I love my job, and I love the staff that I work with, so I'm very appreciative. Thank you.
And next is Eric Barron. Couldn't make it tonight, but please share a round of appreciation and recognition for Eric Barron. 25 years of service, Nicole Pryor.
Hi, I am a social worker in an elementary school. I've only been at Shields the whole time. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve the families in Kaneland. And so I wanted to thank everyone here for the opportunity. It's been a gift. Thank you.
Steve Carpenter. Steve also in the IT department, so at some point Tim probably shared one of his positions with Steve.
Say thank you for the just the great opportunity to work with Kaneland, and just it's very unusual to work in a job for 25 years and still like it and still enjoy the people you work with. So thank you for the opportunity.
And our last 4 recipients, recognition awards for 25 years. I don't think they could make it. Well, they said they couldn't make it, but is Elsa Glover? No. Tom Leno. Tom retired? All right, we'll update our records. Thank you. Julie McCombs, John Purnell. No, but thank you to them also for their 25 years of service. So thank you for that. That group together has served our community, our Kaneland community, for 277 years. So thank you for your time and your dedication, and look forward to the next few years till we recognize you in the next group, which is our retirees. Our first retiree with 23 years of service here at Kaneland is Barb Dudzinski.
Hate public speaking. So I work with the very youngest kids in the school district, the 3 and 4-year-olds in the early childhood program. And parapros out there, we could not do it without you. You rock. Thank you. And I love our learners.
And serving dedicatedly in our district for 21 years, Mrs. Rainey Good.
So I started in Kaneland with my kids before I even taught in the district. So I have 2 Kaneland grads and who are now older than I want to think about, and taught at Shields and then here for 14 years, and was pleased also to represent teachers as the KEA president for 3 years, and that was an honor and a privilege, as well as serving our students throughout the years. So thank you.
Serving 22 years in our district, leading up to her retirement this year, Rachel Ramos.
I didn't know I was going to get the chance to get the microphone, but I have been here for that however many years it's been. And prior to that, I worked in Florida and I taught elementary school. And I want to say that when I came here, I felt like I was coming home because I grew up in Wisconsin, and the cornfields out there at the old building, you know, they made me feel like I was back home. But I have enjoyed my years at Kaneland, and I am a little bit sad to be leaving. And I want to encourage the board, because I have to get my last plug in, that you really need to reinstate certified librarians at the elementary schools. You absolutely need to do it, because the lady who came earlier and spoke about reading, you need elementary school librarians who are certified librarians and know how to transfer that love of reading to our young children. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, our last 5 retirees, I don't think they could make it, but I still want to take a second to recognize them in case they are here. Lori Roberts, 15 years of dedication to district, so thank you to Lori. Brian Willis, 20 years in Kaneland School District. Sandy Filetto, 17 years at Kaneland School District. Darla Heyman, also 17 years serving our district in such a professional manner. And then last but not least, with 22 years in our district, Kristen Muir. Congratulations. So please know that we will deliver their clock or their apples to them, and we will make sure that they get those safely. And many times what happens is if their building has a faculty meeting or they have some sort of an assembly at the end of the year, they'll also recognize their staff in that way. And so for our retirees, we'd like to thank you for your dedicated 157 years of service to the Kaneland community. So thank you.
this point, I would ask Dr. Fuchs if she had anything to add, but she is not here. So we will move on. Tonight's consent agenda contains the following action items. Approval of the Treasurer's Report, April 2023. Approval of personnel. Approval of destruction of audio recordings from closed session meetings from November 2021. Approval of the IASB annual dues. Approval of food services fees for 2023-2024. And the following informational items. The student suspension and data report and the Freedom of Information Act report. At this point, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0. All right. So, at this point, we will have our first opportunity for public comment in this meeting here. We do have one person signed up, so I will read the spiel again. I know we already mentioned it, but go ahead and do that. The board values public input to inform our decision-making and to provide information and insight into what is happening throughout the district. Board meetings are held to conduct the business of the Board of Education and are required by law to take place in public. However, they are not public forums. We use the public comment section as an opportunity to listen to our stakeholders. For that reason, the board does not enter into debate or respond to questions spontaneously or without proper investigation and deliberation. In most cases, concerns or questions requiring follow-up will be referred to the superintendent. If you choose to speak publicly, we ask that you do so at the microphone, state your name and village of residence or your association with us for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less so that all who wish to speak may have that opportunity. Public comment is a maximum of 30 minutes with a 20-minute total length of time for any one subject. You are encouraged to seek private appointment to discuss matters concerning individual students or staff members. While public education can be an emotional issue, and understandably so, the board strives to maintain a certain level of decorum at the meeting. Those who speak are expected to maintain a tone of courtesy and civility. At this point, we have one person signed up for public comment, and that is Ms. Kendra Schumacher.
Good evening. My name is Kendra Shoemaker. I am the president of Kaneland Education Association, KEA. I'm a 4th grade ELA teacher, resident, and Kaneland graduate. First, I want to introduce myself and say welcome to the new board members and returning. I also wanted to use this opportunity to extend an invitation to this board that I extended to the previous board, but to no avail. A couple of years ago, previous board member Junk had brought back an idea from a conference that she attended on behalf of the school board. The idea was to create roundtables between the school board and staff members. When I heard this idea, I thought it would be a great way for KEA, as a stakeholder in the district, to sit down and have conversations with school board members about initiatives and directives they are approving and share how it looks in practice. Last fall, I reached out to the previous board and asked if they would be interested in creating KEA Board of Education roundtables as a place for us to come together, open lines of communication, share celebrations, and problem-solve concerns. The previous board declined. So I am here tonight to extend the same invitation to this board to engage in KEA board roundtable discussions. If there is an interest, there would be more conversations about how the roundtable meetings would work and look. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, she was the only one that signed up, but does anyone else, would anyone else like to support?
My name's Chris Sutton. I live in Sugar Grove. I have 3 kids in the district. I didn't prepare anything. Wasn't sure I was going to speak or not. There was a couple things that I just heard as I heard the presenters talking a little bit earlier. I don't know if anybody heard from the first session, but there was a common word that was used by every single person that spoke. I know you're not going to answer any questions, but anybody take a guess at what the word was? Safety. The word was safety. We're not talking about divisive political issues. We're not talking about, you know, budgets that got voted down, or we're not talking about standard-based, you know, education. We're talking about the lowest common denominator that every person in this room should care about, and that's safety, right? I mean, that's what we're asking for, is safety. I don't think anybody's going to push back on that, whether it's safety in the track, you know, for that, keeping that intact, whether it's safety in the bathrooms. I know that was brought up earlier with Fight Club, quote unquote. You know, I'm sure you all have seen that video. I don't know if anybody else has, but it was a horrible video that happened in the bathroom. You know, and you got two kids, one kid body slamming another kid and sticking his head in the urinal. It was awful. It was awful to see. It was awful to know that this happens in my hometown, where I live, because we wanted to raise our kids in a safe school. And right now I have concerns about safety. I think there's a real problem that, you know, I know some of you are just walking into this role, and I appreciate you, you know, volunteering to do this. I know it's difficult and you're going to make a lot of tough decisions, but my ask is that we keep safety at the forefront for all of this. You know, I think the other thing that happens is, you know, the kids get in a fight, and, you know, 3 days later, kid in fight comes right back to school. So what that teach the rest of the kids that see this happen? Well, there's not a severe consequence for, you know, call it a felony in a school bathroom. So I think that causes some problems. I think what that happens is then kids go, you know, there's not a consequence to what my action might be, a real severe adult consequence. So what happens the next day? Someone starts a toilet on fire, right? The problems keep getting worse and worse until we address them and the kids feel safe. Kids don't feel safe going to the bathrooms because there's kids doing drugs in the bathrooms, you know? Just today, my daughter came home from school, and someone at the middle school here tried to replicate what happened at the high school on Wednesday. Obviously to no avail. And it was an ill-planned thing, but clearly these things are happening, and it continue to happen. My ask is this board, you know, 3 of you are just starting out, the rest of you who are continuing on in your service to the community, is that you keep safety at the forefront at every decision that you make. Again, that is the lowest common denominator. Every person in this room is going to back you on safety, is going to back you on discipline. And to see that these things happen, and I have to send my kids to school and with a piece of concern in the back of my head that, well, my kid's not going to be able to go to the bathroom safely while they're here at school, you know, or there could be a significant problem that comes up. That's a problem. That's a problem in the community. And that's a problem that we're going to have to address as a community. And I just ask that as you get into your roles further, that's something that you all take in consideration as you make every decision. That should be the first thing, is safety first, and then everything else should guide you from there. So thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Okay. At this point, we'll move on to new business. The first item of new business is the report on the capital improvement plan, summer 2024 update. Normally Dr. Fuchs would do this, but
I can start it, and Mr. Payton will join in. Okay. As you know, we shifted, and Mr. Payton can go over this a little bit in the presentation. We shifted the timeline when this presentation would come to the Board of Education prior to COVID, because prior to COVID, when the timeline was brought to the board, we were able to secure materials and vendors and product to be able to do our summer work typically. But as COVID hit, we reallocated our time. Mr. Payton and Dr. Fuchs meet with all of the director levels. They meet with all of the principals. And as you see in this extensive capital project, Mr. Payton will walk us through it, both inside and outside, each of the buildings, what is scheduled and what we're on track to work on. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Payton. Thank you.
Okay, your board packet, you received a document. It's the report on capital improvement plan for the summer of 2024. As Dr. Layton had mentioned, we used to do this in the fall for the following summer, but we're no longer able to do that due to timelines with supply chain and labor and whatnot. So we've moved it up a little bit. So we're shooting for work in summer of 2024 and beyond. I'm not going to read the whole document, but what I'll do is I'll hit some highlights that I think are important. But if there's anything that I don't touch on throughout this that you're interested in, feel free to ask me about it.
And just, excuse me, Mr. Payton, 1 second. And just as a reminder, we're not looking for action tonight. We're looking for just a presentation and then any feedback. Dr. Fuchs and Mr. Payton will bring this back to the board on May 31st.
As far as the sites are concerned, we have developed a paving and seal coating schedule to maintain the large amount of pavement throughout the district. Many of the parking lots are aging and in need of replacement within the 5-year scope of this project, or report, I'm sorry. A lot of the paving was put in between 1998 and 2004, kind of in that time frame. So it's all kind of coming due for replacement in the same time frame. So that's going to be a theme throughout here. Roofs in several areas of the high school are still in need of update. We don't currently have any major leaks, but it is something that we are aware of and monitoring. Flat roofs on John Stewart and John Shields Elementary are aging out and need to be considered for replacement. Roofs at Blackberry and McDowell are also approaching that time period where they're aging out and need to be considered for replacement within the scope of this report. It's important to note that based upon life cycle modeling, which is manufacturer recommendations on useful life expectancy, that's kind of what we're using to gauge when we're going to replace something. But as you know, particularly roofs, parking lots, they might not seem to have a problem right now, but they can deteriorate rapidly and become a problem. So that's why we want to stay on top of maintaining them. I'm going to jump ahead now to Blackberry Creek Elementary School. The two things I wanted to highlight for Blackberry Creek are the roof approaching the end of its useful life, and we're recommending replacement in 2028 at this point. We'll continue to monitor. We may move that up or back depending on situations. Also, and this is going to be a theme throughout here, there's what they call a 10-year life safety survey. To those of you who are new to the board, that is a survey that the state mandates that the school does, where we check existing buildings against current code and make improvements to the building to bring them up to current code as needed. What we do is we engage an architect, typically the architect of record for the district. They go through with some engineers and do a survey of the building and then bring back recommendations. Sometimes those recommendations are mandated. This has to be fixed. Sometimes we recommend you fix it and it has to be done within this time frame. And sometimes it's just recommendations. It's just, best practices to do this, but it's not outside of current code. So you're going to see discussion on 10-year life safety survey at every school. In the case of Blackberry Creek, it was last performed in 2017, so it'll be due to be performed again in 2027, which is within the 5-year scope of this report. Jumping ahead then to John Stewart Elementary School, the pavement in 2022 was slated to be replaced. The board approved that project and we were ready to move forward, but then there was an operators union strike and that project had to get put on hold because we couldn't get the aggregate we needed to complete the work. So it is now scheduled to be done in summer of 2023. So it will be completed. It's just a little later than we had hoped and anticipated. I mentioned before the flat roof portion is ending or approaching the end of its useful life. John Stewart Elementary, John Shields Elementary, they have pitched roofs, standing seam metal pitched roofs. Those are in okay condition. We're not concerned about those, but it's the flat portions like over the gym, the multipurpose room, and the library areas. Those are aging out and due to be replaced. We currently have that in the plan for 2024. The unit ventilators, most of the classrooms in John Shields and John Stewart have unit ventilators. That's what heats and cools those classrooms. It's a HVAC device. And also DX cooling units, the air conditioning for certain smaller areas in the building. are all due for replacement based on generally accepted life cycles. While those systems are still functioning without excessive repair needs, we should consider replacement within the 5-year scope of the report, and we currently have that slated in the plan for 2025. And then again, getting back to the 10-year life safety survey, the 10-year life safety survey was completed in 2020 for John Shields, John Stewart, the Meredith Academic Center, the high school, and the Harder Middle School. Once that was completed, we kind of slated in the repairs and upgrades that needed to be made. Year by year, we have 5 years to get those completed. There were no findings that had to be completed immediately. The findings that had to be completed, we have 5 years to do. So what we did the first year was do doors and windows. The second year, which is summer of 23, we did, or we're doing plumbing work that was previously approved by the board. In summer of 2024, which is what this report is for, we're planning on the electrical upgrades that need to be made. And then in summer of 2025, we're going to clean up any miscellaneous items that are still left open. We did that for economies of scale, things like that, group all the electrical work and do it all at one time. Hopefully we get good pricing and things like that. I'm not going to say that again, but know that same paragraph is in several other school buildings. John Shields Elementary, as you may or may not know, those John Shields and John Stewart were built at the same time, same blueprints. You're standing in one school, a lot of times you can't tell the difference between which school am I in. So a lot of the verbiage you're going to see here is the same as what we went over in John Stewart. Pavement is currently slated to be replaced in 2023. We did John Stewart first in consultation with our civil engineer. They felt that one was in the greatest need to be replaced, and John Shield was right behind it. So we had John Stewart slated to be replaced last year. It didn't because of the operators union strike. So now they're both being done in 2023, and that was previously approved by the board.
So as a result of the strike and us having to put it off a year, did we see any difference in cost, or did they hold to the original?
They held their labor cost. They have come back and asked for a little bit of additional funds for materials costs, because materials costs have escalated quite a bit. So there's a little bit of sharing going on. They're taking some of that, and they're asking the district to take some of that.
How much is a little bit, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I know if Dr. Fuchs were here, she would know. I'm sorry, I apologize. Again, at John Shields, the flat portion of the roof is approaching the end of its useful life, and we have that in this plan for 2024. Again, the unit ventilator system and DX cooling units are slated in the plan for 2025. Jumping ahead to McDowell Elementary School. Based on our paving plan, we would look to replace the parking lot in 2025. But we're still trying to determine with our civil engineer whether or not that's going to end up there. The roofs at this building are approaching the end of their life, and we're recommending replacement at this time in 2028. Just like Blackberry Creek, the 10-year life safety survey was completed in 2017, so the next one would be due in 2027, which is within the 5-year scope of this project, or this report. Okay. Harder Middle School, something to note is the PA system, it's functioning, but the administration at this building has expressed concern about high volume areas such as the wood shop, the band, the choir rooms, the cafeteria, those areas where there's a lot of noise, you can't necessarily hear announcements. And there's not much we can do about that with the existing PA system. So we have accounted for installing an upgraded head end unit for the PA system that would enable us to do things like strobes and visual devices so that teachers and students can know that there's an announcement being made for the sake of safety. They can quiet everything down, stop playing their instruments, listen to what the announcement is, and be on the same page with the rest of the building. So we do have expenditures listed in 2024 for that purpose. The Meredith Academic Center, the parking lot is in very poor condition. We do have that slated to be replaced in the summer of 2023, and that was approved by the board the last time we did this. The other thing to note about the Meredith Academic System, the air conditioning units at the facility have reached the end of their useful life. We have currently scheduled replacement, or not scheduled, but planned in this report for replacement of those in summer of 2025. Okay, and then we get to the high school. The high school is our oldest building and in greatest need of improvements. Replacement of the south and west parking lots in addition to the bus lot will need to be considered. In this report, we're recommending significant patching, crack filling, and seal coating to try and extend the life. The student parking lot will need to be considered for replacement in summer of 2026. I know I've been talking about a lot of parking lots, but as I mentioned before, they were all installed kind of within a 6-7 year window. So roofs, again, there's a number of areas that have significant age on them. The west gym, the district office, the industrial arts lab, the west canopy should be replaced as soon as resources are available. And at this time, we're recommending that the west canopy be addressed in 2024, and the remaining costs have been allocated in 2025. Several other areas of the high school will be due for replacement in a couple of years, just beyond the 5-year scope of this report. So this is going to be kind of a theme that gets carried forward with the high school. A lot of the roof surface at the high school was installed in 2003, 2004, when many major additions were done to the building. So by 28, 29, 30, they're going to be 25 plus years old, and they're going to need to be considered for replacement. There have been discussions for a number of years about upgrading some science classrooms in the original portion of the building. We currently have that in this report planned for 2026. The west gym floor is really beyond its useful life. We currently have a replacement plan for that in 2025. Auxiliary gym floor is in need of refinishing. That type of work should be done approximately every 10 years. It's been 17 years. So we have that in the plan for 2024. There's carpet in multiple locations at the high school that are in need of replacement. We have that planned for 26 and 27. Wall padding in the east and west gym are in need of replacement. The west gym padding replacement is in process through the O&M budget right now. And the high school administration is working on a solution for the east gym wall padding. The high school has 2 boilers that are 60 years old. There's 4 boilers total, 2 that service the west end of the building, 2 that service the east end of the building. The ones that service the west end of the building are original to the building. They function, but it's way beyond time to replace those. So we have that in the plan for 2025. We have ducting in the older section of the building for the air handling units that need to be replaced. Washrooms throughout the building need to be updated and upgraded for equity, for just cleanliness, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of them are original to that time that they were built. And that is it for the high school. Okay, I kind of went through the life safety study information with you. Does anybody have any questions on that before I move on? Pavement upgrades, I've mentioned. Lighting upgrades. A lot of our buildings, for the most part, are still T8 fluorescent lights. We're kind of getting to the point where it's costing as much for a ballast as it is to replace a fixture. So we need to start considering doing a major overhaul of the lighting, going to LED, and getting away from the fluorescent lights. That is a significant expenditure. The architect a couple years ago estimated about $4 million to do the whole district. You can get some rebate money from ComEd for that type of work. Even with that, you'd be looking at that and the cost savings related to the reduced energy usage. You'd still be looking at like a 12-year payback. The radio systems throughout the district are in need of updating. We need to get from analog to digital formats to ensure operability in the event of a major emergency. We do have that in the plan for 2025. Two other major projects to consider for the future: high school field house with stadium improvements, new transportation facility. Additionally, when Kaneland Middle School usage increases, a significant amount of money will need to be spent on updating the technology, furnishings, mechanicals, etc. in that building. The high school track is overdue for replacement. Over the past few years, we continue to patch the track so it is usable for athletic events, but we need to overhaul it as soon as possible. The civil engineer and the architect are not recommending major overhauls to the existing track at this time until we can completely remove it, take it all the way down to the stone base and build it back up. So that opens a number of questions on location, size, and all the other items that then affects, like seating in the stadium and press box and things like that. So it is a big task to get that all figured out. Okay. Any questions on any of those items before I move to the last couple of pages? As Dr. Layden mentioned, we're not asking the board to take any action today. We're just trying to inform you of our process and give you a sense of our needs. Our needs are great throughout the district. On the last 3 pages, 37, 38, 39, it's kind of like a laundry list of the items we've identified that need to be addressed. And we prioritize those. Priority ones also get sub-prioritized so that we can see what is most important. And then priorities 2s and 3s, we don't sub-prioritize because we know those are going to be well below the line of funding that's available. Normally, Dr. Fuchs would share with you what funding is available. It's typically between $800,000 and $1.2 million is allocated towards capital planning. In this case, we're kind of penciling in a line at item number 1.06, which is the paving at the high school. Everything from there up is what we're considering for summer of 2024. Anything below that line, we don't believe funds will be available. But that's where we're at on capital. Are there any other questions?
I have a couple questions. First of all, can you speak to the priority rating system in terms of, we see 1s to 3s. How's that determined?
Well, we do that with groups like the elementary administration, middle school administration, high school administration. They kind of help us prioritize their items within their buildings. Obviously, safety stuff tends to come first. But then Dr. Fuchs and I blend it all together and try and get some sort of like hierarchy of need based on the feedback from the administrators, and then it gets shared out with the district administration and tweaked a little bit here and there.
So the track, which has been mentioned, being a level 3, but also having a $2 million price tag lumped in with the lights and the fence. I guess first of all, would you be able to elaborate on why it's being pushed out that far? And also,
well,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's not that there's nothing happening to the track this year. The major resurfacing that we were hoping to do this year is not happening. There is significant patching going on. It is going to be restriped. So we are doing work to the track as part of a previously approved project. The idea is to buy us some time so that we can figure out those big picture questions and answers. But there is work being done to the track this summer. So that's why it ends up getting prioritized a little bit lower, because it's not untouched. We're going to try and address any safety concerns, obviously, restriping it so you can see the lanes and things like that.
Why are lights and fence lumped in with the track?
Well, that gets into, like I mentioned, the bigger picture. Once we touch that track, there's certain other things that are probably going to happen. We have to decide, as it sits in its current footprint, there's only 6 usable lanes. The high school administration and coaching staff has expressed an interest in having a full-size track, which would be 8 lanes. That's going to necessitate a lot of other work. Fencing, lighting is going to have to move. And so the price is probably quite a bit higher than it would be if you were just doing a track. If all we had to do is strip off the existing track, lay down new asphalt, lay down new surface, it wouldn't be that big a deal. But the situation we're in, we have to make a decision. Is a 6 to 7 lane track in its existing location going to be adequate, or do we need to put it in a different spot? And then what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
You said you had more?
Well, I don't want to.
I
I don't want to.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
No,
you
go
go.
ahead. I've talked.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think one of the things to say, right, is that we always struggle with trying to balance the want to haves with the need to haves. But the problem is that we have a lot of need to haves that we actually don't even get to, right? So the want to haves just keep falling and keep falling and keep falling, right?
Correct.
I mean, if you look at the life safety thing, I mean, that's going to eat up most of the budget on its own, right? And that's mandatory, right? We don't have a choice about that, right?
Correct.
So that's the big challenge we run into, is that 70% of what we have to do eats up the budget, right? So,
Correct. Yeah.
So if you're patching the track, I used to run track in high school. I ran and I had an 8-lane track. We had a phenomenal, and that was a while ago. Patching it, like, what is the time? I mean, is it good for a season? Is it good for 2 years? I mean, what's the money going to be invested into that, rather than, wait a year? Or I mean, I understand. I'm glad the coach came up and talked about it, because no kid should run on a track like that. I ran indoor track too. I did them both. But what is, I mean, if you look at the numbers and we're putting, you know, a few dollars here to patch it, are we wasting money in that, where we could just maybe wait a year and just go a full 8? And I mean, is it?
I guess the need is going to be larger than our budget as it exists right now. Waiting a year is not going to matter.
Okay.
And we do patching every year. This year is going to be a little bit more significant than what we would normally do. And we're hoping to get a couple, 3 years out of it, assuming we're also still going to have to do some patching year over year. But the scale in difference of cost, like if we don't do that this year, it's not even a drop in the bucket relative to what we need to replace the track.
So if what you're saying is if you do need to replace it, it needs to go to a new location.
Or something of the existing location needs to change significantly. We need to move bleachers, we need to move fencing. Yeah.
And what's a time frame? Say if you had the funding, what would it take to do the track
if we had the funding tomorrow? It would take probably a year and a half. I mean, that was when we went out for referendum, that was kind of the time frame, year and a half, 2 years, that the architect was giving us. Okay, if the referendum is approved, we would be able to do this work. And it wasn't just the track, but that was a big piece of it. So
I have a quick question on the, in 22, the budget, the estimated versus the actual cost. I was looking at the theater lighting, and it looked like it was more than almost double.
Correct.
The actual, what happened with that? And sorry, maybe that's been talked about before, but.
yeah, a lot of it was supply chain went crazy and prices of everything. You couldn't get chips and stuff. A lot of it is electronics. So all those prices went through the roof. I mean, it was public bid, and that was by far the lowest bid. So it went nuts from the time that estimate was presented to the board and the time the bid came in. It was just unfortunate timing.
I guess my concern, right, is that we have all these other estimated jobs in CapEx projects we want to do, and you know, more than doubling, you know, our actual spend on a project. It's concerning.
Yeah.
Right. So if we got some of this other stuff that we think we're going to do, you know, this coming, you know, summer, and then it ends up being double, or I mean, even a quarter more than what it was supposed to be, it eats into the additional, you know, funding that we do have for other projects.
On the flip side, other projects come in lower, like the plumbing work we're doing this summer came in, and that's not on this chart, but it came in a couple $100,000 below what we had estimated. And we do those estimations in conjunction with our architect and their engineers, and who, you know, they're bidding these jobs all the time. So you kind of never know if you're going to get a really hungry vendor that wants to give you really good pricing because they really want the job or they really need the job. Overall, yes, that theater lighting was significantly over our estimates, but overall, we made up some of that with our other jobs. So
yeah, I see. I mean, we netted, you know, it was still a $400,000 loss.
Yeah.
So I mean, yes, but I see it was made up a little bit here, a little bit there. But yeah, I think that's just something that we need to be, you know, aware of and concerned about.
Yeah, and there was a lot of discussion. Those folks that were on the board at the time, I'm sure can fill you in on, do we even do this since it came in so high, or do we not? You know, and at the time, it ultimately came down to the board deciding, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. But that's also always an option if we get bids in and they're just significantly out of whack from what we thought they would be. The board can always elect to not do the project, you know.
Thank you.
I just got one last question. Just to clarify, you said you're talking about an annual budget of about 800,000 to 1.2 million annually to work on this? Okay.
That's what it's been for the most part for a number of years now.
So I guess my concern is the theater lighting is a great example. I came on, there was kind of this assumption that it was a can being kicked down the road. You know, that we'll just keep putting it off. Now, in the short time that we discussed, and we had the coach come up and discuss a timeline, it's sounding very similar. At this point, you know, it's been pushed out 5 years. What do we do to assure that, you know, something happens by 5 years, if assuming we go with this? I just don't want it to keep being prolonged and us keep putting Band-Aids on when we could potentially, you know, complete the project and reduce costs long-term.
I would love to answer that question.
I know it's
but
difficult. Well, it's difficult.
I'm gonna have to defer to Dr. Fuchs on that because you know.
I think the other piece I would share is, as we, and Mark, and again, the directors, and Dr. Fuchs, and she meets with the principals, this list, see at the end of tallies about $13 million worth of needs. As Mr. McCauley just asked a second ago, we have roughly $1 million, 1.2, somewhere around there annually to do the work. The math just says there's no way we're going to get it all done at one time. So while this is the priority and they have prioritized 1 through 3, that is the current priority right now to get both some of the priority 1 that we have to do based on the life safety, and then some of the other things that we know we just need to get done and work towards. So they reevaluate every year and bring this back. And sometimes you'll see that some of the priorities shift, sometimes they change based on what the current needs are and what the finances look like for a given year.
And we always have to account for the thing that gets thrown in and we didn't even know about, right? Like the boiler going on us, right? And then we're like, well, it's a 50-year-old boiler, so you got to worry about that now, right? So I think that's always, you know, to your point, Adam, kicking it down the road. Oftentimes we kick it down the road because there was something else that just took priority. And back to this list, I mean, there's so many things out here that are really important. It would be wonderful to be able to do them all.
And please also know that as part of this, probably about 5 years ago, the board initially charged us as administration with looking at a facility plan for the high school. So as we went through the facility plan, there were a couple different iterations of that, but as we concluded, we had the final study. It was 360 pages long. We brought that to our Board of Education, and then as a result, that's where the idea of a referendum generated from, because of the needs, because of district-wide, how many needs we do have versus the current budget that we can allocate for. So that's kind of where the idea of the referendum came from, and that's why the needs were so great and all to be addressed at the high school. So as we, again, Dr. Fuchs and I, administrative team, are going to be meeting with our engagement vendors that we talked with and worked through for the referendum, and then just get some feedback, and we'll eventually bring that back to the Board of Education, because there are a couple of items on here that, please know, would have been taken care of through a referendum, but also they're items that we have looked at and we know that we need to do. But if we take one more look at the referendum and go out to referendum again next spring, some of these other items would probably be cost prohibitive to go ahead and do that, knowing there might be another referendum coming, maybe 2 more referendum opportunities coming. Then that might just then set back the amount of projects that we would do, and we wouldn't want to do a project twice if we do, whether it's a stadium, whether it's an expansion on one of the buildings, whether it's the parking garage. Those types of things would be identified, and some might have to wait till after the next referendum, successful or not, and then refocus the list and reprioritize after the next round, if that's the direction that this board chooses to go, and Dr. Fuchs and I bring back information. So thank you for that.
Any other comments, feedback? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fiedler. Appreciate the information.
Thank you. I apologize if I didn't introduce Mr. Payton. This is Mark Payton, the Director of Buildings and Grounds, for our new board members, if you've not seen him or been here for any meetings when he was here. Thank you, Mr. Payton.
Okay, that was information, so no action will be taken on that. At this point, we'll move on to the second item of new business, which is the Board of Education retreat for the purpose of self-evaluation.
Yep, this is a topic we always have on the day of our reorganization meeting. There are other meetings where the reorganization meeting, this is a regular meeting, but we have the topic here to talk through with the board A couple different things. You'll see in the first paragraph, we typically have this in the summer. It's a June or July retreat, and it's allowable under the Open Meetings Act as a board retreat for self-evaluation. And the topics that we cover in that retreat, well, first of all, let me backtrack a second. To have that retreat in closed session based on the Open Meetings Act, we have to have our LUDA, our Large Unit District Association representative be there because they're allowable in the state of Illinois to host those, and so is the Illinois Association of School Boards. So if we want to have it to be a closed session workshop, then one of those two have to host it, and the last two that we've had has been through LUDA, our LUDA organization. So what we do right now as part of this conversation, want to first of all agree that we want to have a retreat and have a retreat to be able to talk through, look at a number of topics that we'll get to in a second. But before we move on, I just want to make sure through a consensus vote that everybody's interested in a retreat, a board retreat.
I am.
Yes.
I know we're having a discussion, but I just want to add like a caveat to it. I don't think it's enough. I think we might want to consider doing something in addition to the retreat at some point. Just as a caveat. Yeah.
Thank you. So as we look through it, there's several parts to it. We have to determine a couple things. Like Mr. Lawler just said, do we just have one that's a standalone in the summer? A district, if we would like to, we can have one in the summer. We can do one in December. But again, these are additional meetings that are added on to the meetings we already have and any committee work that you've signed up for. So we try to balance that with your professional lives and your personal lives also. But they are valuable to have because the closed session is one of the few times when we can interact as a board, as long as we have LUDA and or the Illinois Association of School Board there to help guide some of that conversation. Then a couple of things that we would then need to determine is a date in June or July, and then also the topics, because the topics, this is truly our board for our retreat for self-evaluation, so we can determine the type of topics that we want to have. And just as an example, when we've had this in the past, there's always the board superintendent communication. How are we going to communicate? What's the best way to get a hold of everybody? The best way to share information? And we would determine that. One of our board retreats, we had goal setting. The board for a 2-year period of time set goals. And then when we had the follow-up retreat, they looked at their goals. We talked about board legacy to a degree. What legacy, what statement would each board member like to have as their legacy when they step off the board in 2 or 4 years? What did they accomplish? What are their goals? And then we also can have specific training too. We have specific training brought in. There's training that new board members will have to do as a requirement that will starting tomorrow, have 90 days to get that done. But if there are other topics that our board would like to learn about and get trained on, we can have other representatives come in and share that. We can talk about, again, goal setting, we can talk safety, we can talk school safety, any of the topics that we would like to cover. We can have those discussions there. And typically, the way it would work moving forward, after the board shares topics tonight, we'll bring those topics back to finalize on May 31st. And then at that point, we will secure a time and a date, probably through a doodle poll, like Mr. Lawler talked about, finding what date, because it's really important that all 7 board members are there. If we were talking about communication and we're talking about board agreements, how we're going to work, how you're going to work together with each other, it's important for all 7 board members to be there. So with that, I'll just take a second back now, or take a step back and see what topics you would like to have considered as we balance probably either a 3 or 4 hour period of time. It's either 6 to 10, 6 to 9, 6:30 to 9:30, depending on availability into the summer for an evening retreat. So with that, see what topics that you would feel important as you transition to the board or as you continue on the board.
I'd like to start. Definitely, I'd like to work on safety. I would like to thank the gentleman that came up here to speak about it. I have 3 kids in the Kaneland School District. I've worked in a prison for 3 years. I've seen many of fights. I've seen how to de-escalate situations. But if you don't have a safe school, there's a problem. And I know there's not enough staff. I would love to see another SRO in the high school. I'd love to see one in all the elementary schools. I know we don't have a budget for it. You know, if there's a way we can have retired military, retired law enforcement or something get involved, that would be great. I've worked with a multitude of, you know, prior military. I've worked with a lot of individuals that did security on the side too. And again, it's definitely not a political issue. It's definitely an uptick rising that's going on in this country right now. So I think definitely that is something that we definitely need to jump on. But I wanted to thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
So I had two. Number one, I wanted to at Triple I last year. I met with in networking with other boards. I met with a board that meets. It's kind of piggybacking on Dr. Lawler's topic. That meet on a semi-regular basis to discuss, hash out issues, have the ability to interact more outside of this formal setting, but still be compliant. So whether, I mean, the board I talked to, they met once a month, once a quarter. I don't know, once a month's probably too frequent, but maybe discuss if that's something people are open to, because it's going to be more of a time commitment, but I think there's value added. So that was one. The other one I wanted to see if you guys would be interested in discussing is developing more of a relationship with the public, interacting more, having a more open environment to where we can be able to discuss things with them, you know, hear feedback. I don't know if that's as simple as, you know, one board does, you know, coffee with superintendent and a board member once a month. You know, I don't know if anyone shows up, or we put on, they were mentioning, you mentioned something earlier, I should have jotted it down, but an opportunity for, you know, I just feel that it's important that we're in the community listening and beyond just, hey, we're going to have this show up. It's more of a, you know, let's actively work together to better the district. So anyway, those were my two.
I'd like to just add to that too. I think it'd be a great opportunity. The roundtable is an excellent idea. We don't know what's going on in the school unless you have a child in the school. And I would love if students would come up here. I hear from my freshmen, you know, my oldest boy who's a freshman, I hear little tidbits of what's going on. But I think it would be a great asset if we can hear from the students what's going on in the classroom, teachers especially. You know, you brought the idea of the roundtable. You know, what would you like to do? Because I'm 100% in. Because nothing's going to change unless we hear what's going on. Otherwise, it's just what we hear and it's just snippets. And we need to hear the full picture of what's going on. So
I'd like to take a closer look at some of the grant opportunities and pursuing those.
Grant? Did you say grant?
Grant opportunities. Grant opportunities. And also thinking about what we can do policy-wise to improve our services for special needs students, as well as put the focus back on case management and creating opportunities for them, like good case management, and maybe rethinking in conjunction with the classroom teachers how the mandates upon them and their jobs that detract from that.
Okay. Thank you.
So, I think our board agreements definitely need to be re-looked at. So those of you that are new, we have these agreements of how the board conducts itself and also which topics we can talk about. And I'm pretty excited by what I'm hearing tonight because I'm hearing a lot of people that want to talk about other things that we kind of were limited from talking about before. So that's great to hear. but we definitely need to look at what those agreements are. And we also make sure that we're like in compliance, right? Because there are things that like are out of our purview, and then like we're beyond that, right? So usually the Luda people can kind of walk you through like, oh, you got to stay in your lane, and that's like a little bit outside your lane, right? So that's usually what they do for us, right? They can help us with that. But I think our board agreements definitely need to be reevaluated.
I agree 100%. It's a new board, and while we respect, what our predecessors have done and been through, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to at least look at it and improve based on our needs and focus.
Yeah, I agree.
So what I'll do is, I'm not trying to cut the conversation short, but what I'll do next is I'll communicate with John Berkey from Luda, the executive director. What I'll do first is get from him some dates that he's available, and then I'll share that with the board through a doodle poll. We can find out which date everybody can be there. And I don't want to assume that a Saturday's out, but are weeknights generally most preferable? A weeknight as opposed to a weekend? Okay, so a weeknight, would there be a time frame? 6 to 9, 6:30 to 9:30? What would be the earliest starting point for this board based on work and based on other responsibilities?
Could do 6.
Yeah, 6.
6. So 6 would be the earliest? Okay.
Anything earlier than 6 is tough.
I think, okay, so we'd have 6 o'clock, okay. And I'll check with, follow up Jennifer Simmons too, our other board member who's not here. I'll follow up with her after this. And then how long? 3 hours? 6 to 9, 6 to 9:30, 6 to 9, see how it goes and see if we want to schedule
6 to 9, yeah.
6 to 9, okay.
I think maybe I'll add again. So one of the challenges of this retreat is that, although it's great, it's a great way to like get connected and kind of feel things out. It is kind of a one and done thing. And just reflecting back on my own experience when I first got on the board, it took me so many months, maybe like a year, to really just get the job, right? To get what goes on here, right? To even like understand, well, where is H1? That kind of stuff. Like even like the little things, right? I would love to see us change that, where when you get onboarded, there's some other way of like, as opposed to just trial by fire until you get the hang of it. So if at some point we have this retreat, don't get to that piece, I think we need to maybe schedule another retreat or even do it in open session, something where we have that kind of piece where we actually have a process in place. And I don't want to speak for you guys, so if you think, oh, no, it's great, I'll just try by fire, that's fine.
No, it's great. Yeah.
But I mean, Adam, Bob, I mean, right, when you get on, you're like deer in headlights.
Like drinking
What
from
is
the
this
fire
now?
hose.
No, I think it's important. I think we need to collaborate. We need to work together, and we're here for you newer guys, or at least I'm offering. Anytime you need anything. I don't want to go off topic, but I definitely want to encourage, as we're going through stuff, as we're continuing through this process, ask questions. We're gonna hear acronyms like crazy, and don't odds are they told me years ago and I don't know. So we're always wondering. It helps to refresh. Not only that, but the public is listening and they may not know. So don't ever feel shy. I know some of you aren't shy at all, so I don't worry about that. But ask the questions.
Thank you for your feedback on that one. We do need action for me to go ahead and contact in, unless there's anything else anybody would like to add. And again, as we are going to consider this and maybe others, this isn't the only time that you'll ever be able to share input, because as we work through the start of a school year, there might be other topics that come up where we want to address them either through the regular board meeting, board agenda, or through a closed session as needed where applicable.
Motion to allow Superintendent Layden to contact Luda and board members to coordinate a time and a place which we can conduct a retreat.
For self-evaluation.
For
support.
self-evaluation.
Yep.
Yeah.
So move.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cook?
Aye.
Mr. McCauley?
Aye.
Dr. Lawler?
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Mr. Mankiewicz?
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner?
Aye.
6-0, the motion passes. Okay, so that includes new business for tonight. We will move on to the superintendent reports.
Yep,
Dr. Lee.
yes, I have 4 or 5 updates, and then also, on behalf of Lindsay Yost, who's our student representative, I have her update, too, as well, because she couldn't make it tonight due to that same rescheduling of the band concert. But I wanted to share, in regard to Lindsay, we do have, 7 applicants for the Board of Education student representative, which is fantastic. So we've interviewed 4 so far, and we have 3 coming up later this week. Dr. Horn and I are meeting with all of the students, looking through their information, and so we'll be able to bring that information back to the board, likely at the 31st, will be completed by that point, to allow that student representative to come to that meeting. You can meet the student rep, and then they can come to the June and July meetings, and then start officially in August, back when the school year starts. We do have CAC tomorrow night. CAC, our 2 primary it's at 7 o'clock at the high school. Two primary topics. One is the tour that Dr. Burchell will put on. He does a tour of the high school facilities for the Fox Valley Career Center, and that will start right at 7. And then when we're done, as part of our strategic plan, one of the things we built was a candidate profile. So it's a profile of what we want our candidates to look like, our staff members to look like across the district, and that is up for a review. So Dr. Adkins will lead CAC through that activity, and then we'll plan some of our topics for next year through CAC also. And as you mentioned, one of the things we talked about earlier was board representation to some of our committees. That is another it's probably right now the primary source for board member interaction with families, with board member interaction. We do have a note out to the community trying to engage in interest in our committees. Jen Hodak puts that on the website. She's our webmaster. She shares that. We use social media and Facebook, and we have had some interest in some additional people that were interested, family members, community members, to serve on those committees, but we're always looking for more. So if you talk to a family or a parent, anybody who wants to find out how they can get more involved, please have them contact me. And we do have, as you saw on that other sheet, 4 or 5 committees where families can get involved and give us feedback. Our next event we have coming up is the Kaneland Foundation is meeting. As you know, annually we grant several funded grants to our teachers to help innovate for our students, innovate in the classroom. So on the 15th, the foundation is meeting to approve those. Then on the 16th, we have our Hall of Fame induction. We have 5 members going into the Hall of Fame, and they're doing that as part of the Senior Athletic Awards. Graduation is on the 21st. Our Kaneland High School graduation is on 21st, May 21st, Sunday at 5 o'clock out at Northern. Before you leave tonight, after our closed session, please touch base with Mrs. Orful to make sure that you can make it, make sure that we have everybody organized, because we get that information to Dr. Horn, and then we just set up the stage accordingly so that everybody can be up on stage for graduation, if indeed you can make it on Sunday the 21st. Also, another event that we have that's important is our Harder promotion. That one we don't have really a stage set up that we sit on as a board. So if you're interested in coming, or if you have an 8th grader, of course, for promotion, please let me know. And that was all I had for me. Dr. Fuchs usually at this point also shares if she has anything. So what I would share with you is the one thing from Dr. Fuchs. She shared it at the last meeting, and the safety committee that meets almost monthly, one of the things that they addressed at their last meeting to kind of follow what Mr. McCauley shared, that we are looking to get more information on the cost for an SRO at the middle school. So that was one of the things that Dr. Fuchs did bring up. She's looking to get those costs and working with either the sheriff or Sugar Grove to make that happen for next fall. But that's something that would be a board expense, so it'd be an approval that would come back to the Board of Education with that. So don't want you surprised or blindsided by that one. So that will be coming back from Dr. Fuchs, probably in May or June for next fall. From Lindsay Yost, our student rep. This is, again, her last report. We'd like to tell her thank you for her services. It's been great having her this year. It's the first year we've had the student representative piece, and it's been great to hear that voice from students. The Kaneland boys varsity baseball team most recently won against Rochelle, Plano, and Sycamore and Fenton High School, and they are now coming home to play against Sandwich and they have a record of 14-11, 8-4 in conference. The girls softball team recently won games against Central, DeKalb, and Morris, and their current record right now is 9-12, 3-6 in conference. Girls soccer recently beat Sycamore, LaSalle, Peru, Ottawa, and Plano. Boys track and field also have some amazing accomplishments. In the last couple of weeks, they won first at the Crystal Lake Central Invitation, took third in the Kane County track meet, and they have their conference meet coming up Thursday, May 11th. Ethan Yost competed this past Friday in men's gymnastics sectional meet, placed first on the floor with a 9.35 and fifth all around. Because of his performance, Ethan qualified for 6 events at the state meet coming up Friday on the 12th. This is a huge accomplishment, so congratulations to Ethan. And that is also the kind of update that our middle school and high school will share at the June board meeting. If you know that 3 times a year, athletics and activities are recognized as part of salutes to our Board of Education. June is when high school and middle school will come to share our accomplishments from the spring season. Under fine arts, the band concert, originally scheduled for last Wednesday, is now tonight. This is the last concert for the band and is being held in the auditorium, which is just finished, and they're excited to be in there. Clubs and events, prom was this past weekend, held at the Embassy Suites. Thank you to Mr. McNally and the entire prom committee for putting together such a fun night. Reminder, May 16th is the Senior Academics Recognition Night. The 18th is Senior Awards Recognition Night. Friday the 19th is the seniors' last day of school, and the 21st is graduation at 5 o'clock at Northern Illinois University on Sunday, as I mentioned previously. So those are the updates from our student representative, and this would also be moving forward. If we do shift our committee work and have board members assigned to each of the committees, this is when we would share. CAC recently met. I could share part of the highlights, and if Ryan was at that meeting, Ryan could share his takeaways from a board perspective. And then if we had a insurance committee meeting, whoever our insurance committee meeting rep would also share some of those updates too. So that's part of the board-to-board communication and the importance of having board members at the various meetings. So with that, you would typically ask.
I was just gonna ask, so Lindsay's she's done? She's not going
Lindsay's
back?
done. She's retired and going off to college next year.
So we're good that we got to say thanks to her last time.
Yes.
In case she's watching, thank you again, Lindsay, for everything. You're fantastic.
Appreciate you.
I'll make sure I tell her I've got her
Yeah.
nameplate now. She's coming Wednesday after school to grab her nameplate from me.
So great.
All right. Well, at this point, let's discuss topics for future agendas. Does anyone have anything they'd like to propose?
I'd just like to reiterate the security. Again, I cannot emphasize how important that is right now. I didn't hear about that video. I didn't see it. I just want to know why and what is causing this rise, this tick in, the kids fighting, the bullying, any of that. I just want to know why that's going on and what assets does the school have personnel wise that's assigned to it or to deter it or whatever. How do other schools handle this? Like I said, the SROs are great. I just want to see where things are, but it has to be taken care of, I think, really soon. High school with the fire and everything else, it's gotten a little out of hand. So I don't know much about it, but I would love to know what we can do outside of putting it on the teachers and the responsibility of one police officer to handle all that. So
And hand in hand with that, we're looking at some of the disciplinary policies.
Those disciplinary policies are brought annually to the Board of Education.
I know, but restorative's been a quick disaster.
Sorry about that.
and I agree too. I just want to back that too. If it's a slap on the wrist, it's not going to do anything. Kids are gonna do what they're gonna do. But like I said, I worked in a prison. We knew how to segregate this person or this individual and do a lot of different things. Once you put them back to the group, the bad eggs, they go back to the same behavior. So, like I said, I don't know what's going on as far as, you know, the punishment and whatnot, but from what I've seen in my background, I'm not playing when it comes to that. You know, if you want to play that way, you don't want to be in school. So
when is that meeting, Dr. Lynn, where they come and they do like the discussion of the policies? And then
It's in the spring.
It's in the spring, right? Is there a
And then the
possibility?
handbook's approved. It's always in 2 different meetings. It's brought in on first reading with updates from it's typically the middle school dean,
Yeah, right.
elementary assistant principals, and the high school dean. They come and they bring those updates to him. That's usually either the first meeting in April, second meeting in April, or second meeting in April, first meeting in May, depending each year on the timing of hosting those meetings.
So is it possible to have a discussion where we get I would want to hear it, so not just for the new board members, but for all of us, a discussion on how that process works, and what we would do going forward if we wanted to make changes. First of all, and then second of all, to piggyback on maybe having more resources, you know, looking at options, looking at costs, looking at impact, just getting information on proceeding so we can, you know, look at what our options are and how we would like to proceed.
On school safety?
On
Is that
school
what you're
safety,
referring to?
yeah,
Yes. Yep, so I think the first thing we would do is, one of the board agreements is topics for future agenda, as long as there's a consensus with, or a majority of the board, at least 4 people that want to talk about the topic moving forward. Okay, so clearly we have that. So what I'll do is I'll do some research on safety, security, and then figure out whether it's the next board meeting or in June, once we can get through the school year. In June, do we bring that, and what information that we bring? But please also remember, as far as safety and security, there are certain things that we are happy to bring to the board and share. These are what our procedures are. These are our protocols and practices. But also, as the school experts have shared with us, there are certain things that typically you just don't make common knowledge across the board of certain security practices that you have. But what is open and local and public knowledge, we would share that with our board.
If we were, and this is probably a question for all of us, if there was a substantive change to disciplinary policies, I would feel more comfortable if we also ran that through our legal counsel to make sure that we are in compliance with the statement, because as we'll find, that there are times you're like, well, this should be an expulsion, and the legal counsel comes in and we can't expel that, right? And we've been through this, right? And so I think we need to have that guidance too, probably at some point.
Yep, and also I think the other thing that would be important to have too is just a reminder of Senate Bill 100. If you recall, about 10 years ago, Senate Bill 100 was passed, and that is a discipline-related action, legal action, that says basically the steps of discipline, the bigger steps, the suspension steps, expulsion steps, what you do if you expel, what you do when you suspend, how long you should suspend, how egregious is an offense, and then therefore how it fits with Senate Bill 100. So maybe it would be good for us to have the opportunity to review with our board Senate Bill 100, what Senate Bill 100 means, and where some of those components impact some of the decision making that we have. All right, thank you for that one. Okay.
I was to say, but to your point, I think we definitely need to take a look at these things.
Any other topics for future agenda?
Thank you.
All right, at this point, we come around to our second opportunity for public comments. I don't know, is there anyone on the sign-up sheet? Okay, oh, we got a bit of a list. Okay, cool. So the same spiel I went over earlier still applies. Nothing's changed. So at this point, you guys are gonna have to forgive me because I'm terrible with name pronunciation. But Martin Rudiman and Melissa Rudiman? Martin and Melissa? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, okay. So cross that off. Chris. Okay, that was you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Mr. Stalkup, you're up.
Hi, Scott Stalkup. I got 3 kids in the district from Sugar Grove. And congratulations to the new board members and returning board members. Look forward to everything that you guys have vision on. What I've heard tonight, I really like. It's very positive. And to Mr. Kisner's comment earlier about interaction with the public and the KEA roundtables, I think it's a great idea. We've reached out a few times to try to have those happen. I think it's a great idea. With the safety, completely agree with Mr. McCauley and the other board members and Mr. Sutton. With the committee that was mentioned earlier, is there opportunity for parent involvement or community member involvement? And to the other comment with the handbook, I think it needs to be relooked at. I get that there's some things legally you have to do, but I think the handbook requires some maybe more in-depth read with some longer burn time on the front end to allow people to do that. With the budgets and the spending, we heard all of the needs. I think anybody that can walk around the high school will acknowledge all of the needs. I mean, they're evident. My question would be, where are we spending our money? One, spending some money on the academy for plus or minus 100 kids, where the track needs resurfacing, and I don't know the exact number on the high school track team, but based on the middle school track, I gotta believe it's close to 200, maybe a little less, a little more. So we're focusing some money on a group of 100. Could it go toward the track? Could it go to a hallway of lighting? Could it go to a science lab? Why are we spending money where we're spending money? I think that needs to be looked at. The auditorium, once that's completed, I know previously in a board meeting there was discussion about renting that to generate some revenue. Is there options for that? I mean, it's a new facility. I know other districts do that. I've been to some of my niece and other school districts. The high school, they pay for parking. Where does the parking money go? Is that put into the paving fund? Or where is that money at? So those are some of the things, and I'm excited to hear with everything that the board wants to look at and entertain. So thank you.
Thank you. Antonio Grosinger.
Hi, Tonya Grosinger, Maple Park. Congratulations to everybody. Super excited for this. I loved hearing everything. Dr. Lawler, I'm really excited to hear about the board agreements change possible too. That's something I've been asking for dang near 2 years now. So I was really excited to hear that. Thank you. I was kind of going to leave this, but it's been brought up a cajillion and 12 times, but the safety thing and the disciplinary thing, I don't know how many of you know, but my husband is a firefighter for Maple Park, and while he wasn't one to respond the other day, our fire family was responding the other day, and it was not pretty, and that stuff eats at me a little bit. And then my son comes home from school on Thursday, he's in 2nd grade, and says, "Mommy, did you hear that Daddy's friends had to go to the high school and some kid did it on purpose? Why would they do that?" And as someone who's trying to teach my kid right from wrong, and knowing that there have been a lot of issues, not only at the high school this year, but also at the middle school, I'm really concerned with how our discipline actions are being handled. I kind of pulled up everything and I've been reading it the last couple days, and I don't see anywhere where there are even detentions anymore. I'm not saying that that's the answer or anything, but obviously what we're doing is not working. The other thing that I wanted to bring up has a little bit to do with school safety and you know, officers or whatever. Yorkville, which is a district very close to us, actually has a company that has armed guards, I guess. I don't know what you call them. I mean, they dress like normal Joe Schmoes, so nobody really knows. But at their schools, at their high schools, at their middle schools, at their elementary schools, I think it's great that we're looking into another officer for the middle school. But what about our elementary kids? Those aren't schools that just go unnoticed in times of crises and things like that. And while I think it's great that we have these officers at the high school and potentially at the middle school now, what about our kids at the elementary school? They are less likely to be able to even fend for themselves in these types of situations. And I think it's really important that we try and get somebody in all of those schools as well. So that is what I had to say. I'm really excited again, and congratulations and thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay. Oh, was there any more? Forgive me. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, yes, I'm very happy about the new board too and look forward to some good changes coming. One thing that someone told me about and was very concerned, and I forgot to bring up when I came up here before, was this early sex education that's happening. I think it's supposed to happen in kindergarten here. I want to find out the details on that because it's a grooming, it's sexualization of the children. It's going to create more chaos in their minds. They shouldn't be learning this. And I understand a friend of mine is a substitute teacher. She said if it happens, she will not be back here substituting because she doesn't believe in it, of course. This is not appropriate for children. It's pornographic. I have some of the books in my car from other districts that they're using. I don't know if that's what they're using here, but if you've looked at them, they are disgusting. And I don't think anyone would want anyone they know looking at this, even in high school. It's very bad, very, again, pornographic, two men together doing things to one another that it's done in a cartoon form. And this is what they're using in different places in Illinois. So I want to find out. I heard this is coming here this September. How do we find out if it is? And do you have to opt in or opt out? And then the other point that I did say the wrong amount last time, I was looking at this wire points report on Kaneland. And for all of Kane County, this expenses per student, total expenses, is the highest. $25,000 per student with a 38%, now 29% reading proficiency. What are our tax dollars going for? This is what we're all here for, academics, right? I mean, all this other stuff is nice, but school is to learn. Science, math, what school was intended for in the beginning. It got off with all these other things, especially in the last few years with all this social engineering, which is no need to be. The parents just want their kids to be educated. So anyway, I see it's one of the highest costs and the least reading proficiency in all of Kane County. So I think this can be improved a little bit, or quite a bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? All right. So at this point, we are going to move on to closed session. The Board of Education is scheduled for a closed session where there will be no action taken following the session. Therefore, after the vote to go into closed session, the recording of tonight's meeting will be concluded. At this point, I will entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss 2C9 student discipline at, what is that, 9:40 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.